Okay, one thing that I always wanted to talk about and show and share, because it's way more important than talking itself, it's just showing the concept. But on a regular basis, I stumble across a certain creative block in my soloing or improvising in general, which comes from a certain misconception that I'm on the player side, not on the listener side, as much as I would like to be, which means that I cannot really surprise myself as a listener with my own playing, because obviously I know my intentions, right? I know my intentions. I kind of have a very clear concept of where I want to take my playing, where I want to take my solo. So many years ago, I've been suggested this idea of trying to impose certain limitations that's maybe a really fun way of exploring what can be done on a guitar by doing certain silly things that point us into a completely different direction, from very organized and controlled environment into something completely chaotic and undiscovered in one way or another. And I have a couple of these stupid ideas that are really fun to try and fun to practice, and they show how we are attached to certain things that we practice, that we want to feel comfortable with, and that we want to take out on a gig and play them best to our abilities. And this is like a contradiction of it all. And the thing is that I use them a lot while playing live. Whenever I feel stuck, that I'm just playing the same thing over and over this tune, that it sounds bland, it doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't say anything, it doesn't improve the situation, it doesn't bring any joy, it's just adding to the noise. Whenever I feel like there's a situation that I want to improve something or bring something new to the table that I'm not even aware that was there, I can reach onto one of these things. Okay, there is in no particular order, but right now in my loop pedal I have this 1-6-2-5 progression: C major, A minor, D minor, G7. Very plain C major thing, so it's very forgiving in terms of note choices. We won't have to sweat too much over note choices in this case. We can think more about tonalities and seeing what imposing certain things over these chords does, but it's like not crucial in this particular case. But I have these chords, so there is certain movement. There is some sort of backdrop that I work against. And my first creative limitation will be that I am allowed to play only using my index finger. I have the whole neck at my disposal. I can choose whatever I want to do, but it has to be done with one finger and one finger only. It can be played along the neck, across the neck. I can bounce off open strings, use all this stuff, but it's just one single finger. Let's see what we can come up with. And I'll make breaks and describe roughly what can happen in this particular situation. So here we go. 1, 6 to 5 in C major, just with index finger. And so on and so forth. Okay, so because I had only one finger, I used open strings quite extensively. I did a little pedal point at some moment. So I used open string and some notes on top. Something of this flavor. I tended to bend some notes, but very slightly, usually half step, because only one finger means that I cannot get a proper grip on my string that I want to bend. In terms of intervals, thirds and fourths were possibly the broadest that I did, because again, that's something that is within reach of my rolling index finger. And I aimed to give this vocal quality to this line, because usually when we hear singers, they tend to stay within certain range of intervals, and natural thing for speaking voices and singing voices is to avoid broad jumps in terms of intervallic skips, right? So one finger. This is one of the ways we already have certain ideas where it can lead us. So because it's one finger, my usual fingerings, my closed position fingerings, and this kind of runs are pretty much out the window. Good night. So there is different way of seeing my source material on the neck in this particular situation, because I'm not longer tied to my index finger and my point of reference. Like, okay, if I say I'll play in a closed position right now, just to show the idea. Right, this is something that I would possibly usually do in this particular situation. So I know where my C is, and I can visualize every single note way easier because of that, because I know where my C is, right? It's here, so my D is here, E, F, G, and so on. It's very precise and easy way of, because it's in positions, I know where these notes are at all times. When I'm limited just to one finger, suddenly very different groups of muscles work, not the usual ones. And the way I perceive guitar suddenly, and all the known places, well, they behave slightly differently, right? Because it's no longer a closed position. If I want to play C to E, well, I'll do my skip. But if I want to play a triad, now it gets slightly more complicated. And the sliding quality kind of like sneaks in, whether I whether I want it or not. I mean, if I want to get like a proper separated notes, I just need to do the quick movement. But this is like not what this limitation implies. Okay, so I had one finger, everything at my disposal. Let's try with two fingers, index and middle, and see how this changes the whole approach. Same progression, C, A, F, G7, C, A, D, G7, in a C major, laid backing. Okay, so right now, because I had slightly more range in my hand, right, I could play smoother lines. There was more articulated skips between intervals. In general, the character didn't change that much, right? But there was slightly less sliding, maybe more more sophisticated bends, more precise bends, and in general, in this case, it was kind of like getting from one idea to the other. There was nothing dramatic happened, but of course it's about how your head works at this point. So, because listener hears only final result, not intentions, but sometimes when music comes from a different spot, for us players, it can be inspiring. And even though it may seem from the outside that there is not much going on differently, in a long time, we can find something new and something convincing that we might want to incorporate in our playing. Okay, how do I get the timbre and tone? It's very simple. Neck pickup, tone and volume all the way up on the guitar, and I'm playing through the pod 2.0, the old one. I think this thing is almost 20 years old. It's just an old pod, and I use it's like a twin reverb setting with treble very low, and bass and middle somewhere around 12 o'clock. So it's very untouched neutral tone with a hint of reverb, and I think there is a slight compression, but it's very, very soft, so it shouldn't be. It's more not to clip the input of the interface that I'm using for streaming, but other than that, it's very, very simple. Okay, so we had two finger trick. What we could do with two fingers, of course, we can play the usual stuff. We can stretch and play our pentatonic runs, which usually use two fingers anyway, right? But it sounds even worse than just playing pentatonic. I don't really like using pentatonics as not in their usual default application. Anyway, I like imposing them as something different among the chord, which is trick that has been used and overused, like, you know, forever. But sometimes I like certain tonality that they bring. Okay, let's try something different right now. No worries, steady. So let's see what's gonna happen if we just use a single string. I can use all of my fingers, all the neck, but just single string, and I'm gonna use just the G string for starters. Why G string? Because first of all, there's my favorite C in here. The other thing is that this is a good string for bending, so I can always have more articulation at hand. If I want to change pitches in a certain smoother way, that's my string of choice. Okay, so let's see. All fingers, all four fingers, but just third string. Again, C major, 1 6 2 5 progression. what this thing made me play. Suddenly, I got bored of just playing a line that was going up and down the neck, and I wanted to introduce some motifs that would be that would be like a wee seed to develop certain ideas. So for certain chords, I don't exactly remember what I played there, but like there was an idea for a certain chord. For C major, A minor, D minor, and the G. Because right now I could see how this whole motif, just on a single string, moves with the chord, how the notes that would work as a resolution points for the chord, which is just safe points, right? What I'm thinking about is just chord tones. So for C major, C, E, G are like the blandest, the most resolved places. D and A are slightly more colorful. B is the one that is just a hair out there. It's nice and spacious. F sharp for C major, sharp 11, or sharp 4. And that gives itself Lydian quality, also very, very nice soaring note. And for A minor, it's pretty much the same story. So A, C, E, the triad, is like very, very safe point. Safe points, safe resolutions. And everything else that is further from them introduces some colors, but also some tensions. And in this case, I just wanted to grab simple idea, simple motif, and accommodate it to the chord. So say if I take those three notes, C, D, E, it will work really well on C major, slightly bland, but it's very safe, very conventional sound. On A minor, same thing, will work just fine. For D minor, I would move it half step up, just to accommodate for the D minor chord. And for G, I could stay here, right? So, for example, I can take this exact idea. Okay, I used some phrasing, some rhythms. Let's maybe start with a very basic thing. I just play 3/4, three first quarter notes of every bar. So there is no rhythm. It's bland exercise. There is no excitement whatsoever. We're not injecting any kind of beauty in there. It's just an exercise. Okay, nothing interesting. Okay, let's apply some rhythms. So, for example, I'll start with syncopation of some sorts. Okay, now I'm gonna push slightly. Let's introduce some articulation. Now, because this was the same motif for both C and A, and the other one for D and the G, which actually is it's pretty much the same. It's like the same concept. It's just okay. First three steps of tonality that we have at hand, C major, and then we move it one step to the right, right? D, E, F. So, like there is not much happening, but if we just add slight sugar coating, phrasing on top of that, some different rhythms, some articulation, now we can go a step further and let's see what's going to happen if we accommodate it to the chord slightly further. So for example, my fourth note in every phrase is going to be the one that is going to be like a resolution point for the chord. So for C major, I can stick to C. For A minor, I can end up on A. For D minor, D, F. But I can end up on B natural here for G7, so it's going to sound better. Okay, let's move the whole idea further. I'm gonna keep on going, trying to play something that will work with the chord, and but we'll introduce some forward movement. Okay, I'm gonna do it like this. And again, I started from a very simple seed, just G string. This was my initial material that pushed me towards playing a line that is something slightly more captivating, because we as listeners absolutely love being guided by something, or do something that we might expect. It's like, oh, it went there. I knew it. I'm the smart listener. I know that it would go there. And as a player, one of the greatest way of building connection with someone who listens is to speak the language, musical language, that they can relate to. And I'm absolute sucker for great strong melodies. I mean, there are plenty of examples like that, but some of the stuff that's been kind of like lost in popular music, but was there since the very beginning, is I think it's always worth, you know, having a little look back where it's at. And there are plenty of tunes that I absolutely dig. For example, well, we'll do a separate video on that, but one of the great examples of a song with a strong melody that is simply based on triads is Downtown by Petula Clark. It's a tune that originally is on 145, and I'm out of tune. Woohoo. Right, so this is the chord backing. Just listening to the melody, you can tell right away what the chord is, because it's there. It's just spelled in big letters. Me just holding these chords, F major, B flat, C major, F major. I just hold the chords, basic triads, and choose the strings that I have, and the melody is there. It's just built into these chords, and that's something that I always found really appealing, and something that I wanted to incorporate into my playing a lot. But maybe from a guitar standpoint, another guitar hit that is pretty much based on exactly the same concept. Cliffs of Dover by Eric Johnson. A minor triad, G major triad, D, G, D, E minor line. That's strong melody just built straight from the triad, from the chords, and it describes the harmony. Harmony is there to serve the melody. It's simple as that, right? And this kind of very simple concept, like when we listen to the whole Eric Johnson's tune, this song is on verse. It's 1 4 5 1 4 5 G C D G, and then goes to 2 5 1 6. Very obvious progression, something that has been done millions of times, but because of the coloring, phrasing, and certain melodic ideas, it makes it very special. The execution makes it special, right? So, and that's one of the things, and that I like to incorporate, this idea that I just showed, how to develop from very simple, from a simple concept to something slightly more useful and just more musical, right? More, it's transforming from an exercise to a working phrase, something that could be a vocal melody very easily, right? That soloing is pretty much spontaneous composition, as by definition that's what it is, right? That's what improvisation is. It's composing on spot, right? Hey David. So having this simple idea that we had, one string, all the fingers. Now let's try something like that. I only have 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th fret, first 3 strings, nothing more. I can use all my fingers, but these are all the notes that I have. So it's basically chromatic scale from C to C. It's good that I chose from C to C and not from like F sharp to F sharp. Because I mean, we still playable, but it would be like straight in the middle, split in the middle of the octave, which would make possibly. I mean, yeah, some self-imposed harm through music always. Okay, let's try. I get my 5th position. It's gonna be pretty obvious, because that's where my closed position C major lives, right? But I have my chromatic notes, because I'm limited by everything else. I'll try to throw some chromatics in there and try to make it tasty, and not forget that This is all I have. This is all I have. Those 3 strings, 4 frets. I cheated. Okay, this time with different phrasing. Yep, absolutely. Almost any notes when the timing is good. Yes, this is absolutely true. It's always in timing and phrasing. That's the most important tool, most overlooked by players. Often very hard to learn because it's something that we can learn solely by doing, by being exposed to what's going on. It's very hard to get the ideas. Okay, maybe the only thing that I can think of is maybe not the only one, but like the easiest one to get into it is to use preset rhythms. Who was this guy? Oh my god, there was a great video fairly recently. Anyway, the concept was to use to use a rhythm, I believe, from Straight No Chaser and Rhythmaning by Thelonious Monk, and just apply your own pitches, but use this this rhythm, right? Or and so on and so forth. Don't remember how the rhythming goes. Anyway, but to break the phrase in this particular way, to make the phrasing more interesting than just I mean, that's pretty much what bebop is, right? I mean, bebop is basically Johann Sebastian Bach with syncopated phrasing. It's not it's not that anymore, right? And so on and so forth. Anyway, that's what's a make or break, right? So, and actually, that's a very good tangent to what we're discussing today, because we're imposing limitations, but these limitations are coming from our approach to the instrument and to having control. It's about letting the control go and using some alternative methods of making music in this at this point, right? Because we were limited by note choices, so we had to compensate with rhythm, with articulation, with different temporal options that we have, and I think that's like the first thing to explore something is of course to intentionally abandon certain things, to make certain things slightly more difficult. I remember that I had this phase where everything I played was were certain runs that I just treated them as a habit, and I wanted to break it. So I started playing on a very, very heavy gauge string where pretty much it was very, very hard to play legato, and these lines wouldn't work at all. So I had to start flat picking in a more precise way and make my note choices based on that. The guitar was very, very hard to play at this point. So I had to play in different positions. I had to choose different layouts on the neck where it just made more sense in this particular situation. And that's also on a very heavy string. And I mean really heavy set of string. I had at peak I had 17th as the first string. The bottom ones weren't that heavy because they're just completely unusable. I mean, above certain gauge, I would say 64E is like top, and on some pickups it's already started wobbling because there's a, it's a good chunk of metal exposed to magnetic field, and the magnet is started pulling on the string, so it starts sounding very, very unclear, like a ring modulator effect of sorts. So it's hard to get a distinct pitch above certain gauge at this tension. So I'd say 50, 56, 58 for E. Oh, that's so great. Yeah, six string bass is a fantastic tool. Fantastic tool to and yeah, definitely. I mean, I have bass here in the corner. It's dusty and ugly. Maybe should need some refreshing. But what I've noticed that any kind of unusual factor usually can steer us into something interesting. So right now we had a very, very limited choice of notes, right? Let's try something slightly different. I don't have a proper blindfold, but let's assume that you guys trust me. And how would it sound if I had all my neck at my disposal, but because I use my eyes as a certain guidance whenever I play? What would be the outcome if I played with my eyes closed or blindfolded, so that I don't have immediate reference on my neck? So the only reference that I have is the note that I just played and certain muscle memory, which can be tricky because whenever we're here, fingers in their relative and the relative movement, it's quite a strong, so it's quite a good strong point of reference. But when we're changing positions, it's really hard to tell where we are. And again, there are going to be certain things that we hear, and certain senses that we're starting focusing on to get the idea where we are on the neck. So I'm gonna treat this as my C, and I'll try to play with my eyes closed, completely looking up the ceiling. There is nothing there that could hint me what to do. Okay. One. Okay, so that wasn't really that hard. I'm assuming because I do it almost every time. I mean, whenever I practice, I look at my neck. When I gig, I tend to look towards the audience or out the window, rarely at my guitar, because I kind of like this state of mind of listening more, because obviously when I close my eyes I listen more attentively to the band, to what's gonna happen. I kind of can visualize certain things way better. I prefer to play with my eyes closed most of the time, for musical reasons. I don't have stage fright or anything like that. I mean, I'm anxious. I lose my shit when it comes to everyday contact with people, unless they're musicians. But I have no problem playing. I mean, this is my my safety nets and my shield and everything. So okay, got a message, really nice message. Like getting nice messages. Anyway, the idea of playing with eyes closed was one of those creative limitations that actually helped me a lot, because I play very differently. I perceive things differently. So one thing is that I stay to my safe points, roughly. I don't want to go too crazy, because I don't want to lose my point of reference, though I don't really hold on to it that much, right? I mean, once I'm in my key now, because I'm in I know where my notes are, what they are. In this position, I know what to expect everywhere. Just based on intervals and my fingers. And I can change my positions quite easily, but I also tend to play across the neck more than along the neck, because so so unless it's linear, it's no problem. But if I want to do broader intervallic skips, it's slightly more challenging. So maybe that's another thing that I should practice more. Just closing my eyes and okay, this is my C E. Now I want to C G, C G G C C E, yeah, C E C G C E, ah, C E C G C E C G. So yeah, it's possible. It's possible to gather. Actually, the only guitar teacher that I ever had, absolutely brilliant Gary Whitner, he sold me something quite similar to this thing. His idea was, it was a difficult thing. It's something that I should practice for years. Just forgot about that, but it's again about using this creative limitations of sorts. But his idea of getting to know guitar better and approach it completely in an uncalculated, unassuming way was to play notes of the major scales, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, C major for example, but every note should be in a different octave and a different position. So for example it would be C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Different finger, different position, everything different string. So this way it breaks off from everything that we feel comfortable in terms of shapes of scales, notes, locations, and everything. So like the first phase was of course just to play them, you know, starting on any C and seeing where it goes. C, D, F, G, A, B, C, for example. And then it was doing that with your eyes closed. So C, D, E, F, G, G, A, B, C. Difficult thing. Doable, but difficult. And the idea to practice it was like just breaking down onto single intervals. C, C, D, C, D, C. Okay, I got this one. C, D, E, C, D, E, F, E, F, E, F, E, F, G, A, A, yeah. So G, G, A, G, E, A, B, B, and C. Anyway, just getting these pairs of notes and memorizing the movements. It was absolutely crazy. I was like when I was like 14 or 15 years old, and I tried this. It was like, whoa, that's, you know, completely from outer space. But actually, getting something from this concept and trying to incorporate into playing, that there are like different points of reference and different hookups and different fulcrums to what we do, that we pivot around, and just being aware of them and trying to find them and trying to find what works for us, and sometimes even against our will. And it's like, this is stupid. Like, why would I play this in this position with this finger? Because it's completely uncomfortable. Nobody does that. But at some point, there might be something interesting in there. Okay, we did this thing with eyes closed and dislocated octaves, using one string, using limited amount of notes. It can be anything. So we can, for example, try to make things work just for example, just by having 3 notes and seeing what we can do with that. Just C, D, and the G. Okay, C, D, and the G, which actually can make us build some motifs, you know, or rhythm ideas. So different articulation, different timbre that I can. So let's see with these three notes. Still, plenty of music to be done. Brushy mastering, yeah, familiar with them. Slightly different concept, but yeah, I mean, it's like speaking of which, it's like building style around limitations is another can of worms. And I mean, playing blues in open D tuning with no third in D tuning, also free. It's like, you know, dropping certain shackles in terms of, like, we don't care about chord quality at this point, and there's again plenty that can be done with slide and open fifth, right? So single note as a rhythmic tool, and just one note, one string, as a tool in more rootsy context is like, it's a one thing, it's a big thing, but like carving out from everything that by default comes with a guitar, you know, and standard tuning and all the musical tools that we have, and harmonies and harmonizations and chord substitutions, and suddenly we have all these tools that are fairly that give us impression that we can paint anything that we want with all these tools, but suddenly we are left with things that don't sound exciting at all, because we've turned understanding backwards slightly, and it's really easy to get caught by into this trap. And just by knowing that they, in general, music theory, music concepts are descriptive in nature, right? They don't teach us, they don't show us how to play. They can only describe what's already been played, and maybe maybe give us an idea how to look at certain things if we want to replicate something. But to come up with something, it's just the most natural way, you know. Oh yes, in skiffle bands the bass was made of a brush shaft. Yes, and it sounded good. It sounded better than some of the double basses recorded in the early days. So yeah, absolutely. And oh my God, I mean, it was just terrifyingly great at some point, you know, with having less to make more. I mean, this is something that I absolutely adore. Just taking a couple of steps back, and how much music we can make with less and less. Maybe not tools, because right now anyone can take all their multi effects or whatever, or cheap guitar pedals, and replicate all the sounds that are sitting in our heads. But it's more about less and less production. I mean, how can we deliver music by just pushing air from the instruments that we have in here? No PA, no big productions, no synth and samplers involved, just by physically actually playing the instrument, right? And that's what I kind of lean towards, at least for now, and for a couple of recent years. Although yes, I had a quite complex rig at some point. I used two half stacks and 6-channel amp and a rack of stuff and MIDI connectivity and all this scary stuff that could break at any point. But yeah, I mean, this was like early 2000s. Not anymore, and not that I would care. I mean, I know that possibly at some point there'll be situations when I need to go direct, and I'll have to I'll I'll have to have something that will do its job, and mostly as a traveling rig. So I don't know where it's gonna end up. If it's gonna be some sort of, I don't know, cruise ship jobs or something, sitting in a pit reading charts at some point in future, possibly nearer than further. I'll need to have a guitar that I already have one, and that I won't be afraid to take on the airplane, and the direct rig that I can rely on. Though I heard some horror stories of guys that I think it was like Helix or something. The guy went to the gig on a cruise ship, and his Helix died or something. And it was actually the device, not the power supply or something. Something that he couldn't actually fix on spot. So that was slightly terrifying. I don't know how the story ended, but I wouldn't like to be in this situation. Okay, let's maybe I'll check my tuning before we proceed. Okay. Now we can have a look at the combination of this stuff. So, for example, what would happen if we had one string and one finger? Because previously I had G string, but I could use all my fingers. Now let's try to just use G string and one finger. Okay, like by default I started audiating, but I mean I almost do all the time, but right now I kind of like externalize it. So I started singing along with my playing because I felt so limited by this. Uh, thanks, David. Great pleasure having you, and hopefully soon. I'll try to keep us posted whenever I go live. Uh, so the thing is that because right now I have one string, one finger, none of the tricks, none of the guitar tricks that I learned could be executed with this technique. I mean, like my scale runs, my bends, my melodic patterns, everything that I try to avoid are not there anyway. So what I'm left with is my singing voice, which is terrible, by the way, but which can lead me to play soulful, natural, gentle lines that I can just execute on a guitar, just like it's a single string of a human voice, like voice chords. So. And so on and so forth over the chords, obviously. So this is one other way to approach it. Okay, what would happen if I have one finger, one string with eyes closed? Okay, and to make it harder, I won't grab onto my C this time. I'll try to see how terrible it's gonna be if I'm gonna just start with open string, and I don't know where I'm, where I am. I'll close my eyes, start the loop, and try playing. Okay, I wouldn't say that it's easy, but it's doable. So I had certain sounds in my head, certain line that I was mumbling in there, and of course I was aiming at these notes that I heard. And the trick there was that I also wanted to be maybe not as close, but fairly close to controllable area of it all. So I was sometimes doing my slides to hear where I need to stop, but that gave it this slurry character to the line. But it was kind of enforced by the fact that I didn't have a good strong point of reference, right? So if that's the sound I am aiming at, cool. but how would it work? I could possibly over time build the confidence of playing this way. So again, because this time it's my elbow that is responsible for pitch, not my fingers, right? So it's a very different, very odd spot for the note choices to come from. I mean, of course, it's musical imagination, but the control is in a very odd spot, right? It's like hitter. Let's well, sometimes there's this running saying by jazz players that the right note is just half step away from your mistake, uh, which means that there is an easy way to fix it on a guitar. If you, for example, hit a wrong note, you can always put it half step later by a little percussive maintenance. Works also on all on the whole chords. Uh, but there is something to it. It's just about resolving to something that makes sense in the context, right? Okay, I guess that this is everything for tonight's stream. I was really honored to have you all, and hopefully we'll see each other and hear from each other soon. I'm gonna post this thing, but I'm gonna cut like first 15 minutes when I'm just noodling without any substance in there. So if anyone wants to review this incoherent mumbling, you're all welcome. Thanks so much, and